Welcome back, folks. It's Gear or Gadget time. 3 new products brought to the table today, and we're going to do a little hybrid review. 3 rules to start this off. There's no brand bashing. We're not trying to make anyone look bad. If you use the term game changer, Chad has a rusty knife for you. And 3, if you like the content we're putting out, guys, just please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave us a comment down below. Now let's get into it.
Product I brought in today, kind of basic, but to be honest, I didn't actually start using these until probably 2 or 3 years ago. And from going to never using binos to using binos for hunting, it makes a big difference. Like the amount of deer I see has increased probably 2 to 3 times. Because I mean, if you could just times I just sit there and scan and see deer that I would never see with just my naked eye. I brought in the Vortex Crossfire HDs. They're only an 8x42 bino. I bought them, like I said, probably 2 or 3 years ago. Very inexpensive binos. They actually came with a case and everything. The Vortex bino harness. I used that one for 2 years probably. Held up good, just got a different one. But yeah, if you're just wanting to get a good cheap pair of binos, these are honestly a really good product. The first Vortex product I've ever owned. I liked them a lot. Ended up buying one of their rangefinders as well. But yeah, it really makes a difference. When I first got them, it was during turkey season, and it helped because the one spot I really mainly turkey hunt's a giant, like 100-acre field. And they roost all around the edges. Kind of just set up where in the middle. That way I can just kind of see all around. And these were really beneficial that year. I didn't kill because I'm a terrible turkey hunter. That's why I stick to whitetail most of the time.
How are those in low light? With only being $100, do they struggle a little bit?
Honestly, they do better than I thought because that's what I do. A lot of times the last like 10 minutes, of light when it's starting to fade out and when you really can't see that well, I'll just get these out and just kind of scan around where I think deer are going to be coming from. And that's really helped me see deer, help me see movement at least. Or at least if I see movement with my naked eye, and when it's that last 5 minutes or whatever, you can't really tell what it is. These actually work really well in low light.
Growing up, it was a funny thing that I didn't use binoculars growing up, and no one in my family used them growing up.
My dad still doesn't use them.
And it's like, to me, that is like a black and white staple that like everybody that hunts needs to have, and you need to have it on you or with you. I just can't imagine going back to not having them. Even when you see a deer, you catch movement or something, just to get them up and lay a visual to know what deer it is or help better identify what you're looking at. Like that could be the difference in the freaking hunt. Yeah. It's like, I don't know. I get mind boggled by guys who don't carry binoculars.
It was growing up for me as well. I never used them. And when I started using them, I would find myself either catching a deer moving, like you said, or like this year I saw a branch moving and I pulled my binos up and there was a shooter buck 80 yards away that I couldn't see, but I could see his antlers through the tines, and then I was able to make a move on that deer because, like, okay, that deer's over there and he's not where I'm at. If I didn't have my binos, I probably would have been like, oh, there's a buck over there, but is it a buck that's worth shooting? One of the biggest use cases for me is with scouting and like spotting and stalking and moving through the woods when you're being mobile. If you're not using your glass, like you're screwing up. There's a lot of things that you can't see. If you follow some of the best still hunters or spot and stalk hunters like Zach Fehrenbaugh, he'll take 3 steps and he'll stand next to a tree and glass for 10 minutes. All the guys that are moving through the woods like that are glass. And for a scouting purpose, you see a rub down the way, or you see something, is that a rub? Pull your binos up and save yourself 300 yards and walk, and you can be more efficient with your time. I think binos are something every single hunter, rifle hunter, bow hunter, shotgun hunter, muzzleloader hunter, you should have them on your person at all times.
Totally agree.
Gear.
100%.
Gear
for me as well.
Well, today I brought in more of a Western product. So last year I did geared up one of the backcountry elk hunt in Idaho and was on a limited budget. So not everything that I bought could be the best or the most premium. So I had to make some smart decisions based on due diligence I was doing preseason around specific pieces of gear. One of those items was a packable sleeping bag. There's a lot of great sleeping bags out there, but they also come with a pretty high price tag, $500, $700, $800, and it's all based on being lightweight and packable. That was not in my budget. So I went in, did a bunch of groundwork, digging through forums, digging through Facebook groups, trying to find the best budget sleeping bag that was suitable for the early season elk hunt that I was going on in the backcountry. And in my mind, I didn't need to spend $500 or $700 or $800 on the highest end sleeping bag that I could possibly find, because my life ultimately was not in danger from getting hypothermia. Your bag gets wet. Down does not perform well when it gets wet, but it has the advantage of being super packable, right? Long and short of it is, if you're going on a backcountry hunt in the early season and the temperatures are more than likely not going to get down below 30 degrees and you're not in super inclement weather where your life is at risk, man, these Hyke and Byke bags are a stellar option. I mean, you can see it comes with a little compression sack. It smashes down tight, and it could probably even smash down a little tighter than this. I just poured this out of my truck. Fits into your pack relatively good. Doesn't take up a whole lot of real estate. And the price tag is only, I think I paid $175 for this. Absolutely phenomenal. And this is a 15-degree bag. And one of the things, if you guys aren't familiar with sleeping bags, they all come with, you see these temperature ratings. There's 2 different temperature ratings that companies could possibly use to kind of misinform consumers. You have a survival rating, and then you have a comfort rating. So there's 2 different temperatures there. Most of the time, they're gonna give you the survival rating. Like, you're not gonna die if you're in that bag at this temperature. So this is a 800 FP goose down bag, and it's rated for 15 degrees. That's the survival temperature, 15 degrees. A lot of guys say you could double that, like go to 30, and that's your comfort rating. So for an early season hunt, man, this is an awesome budget style product that, if you're truck camping, fantastic. If you're doing some stuff early season whitetail, absolutely fantastic. Just a solid budget product all the way around. Piece of gear.
Yeah, I don't really have anything more to add to it. I think you covered all the bases. I have a Nemo sleeping bag that's rated for 30 degrees. It packs down like probably half the size of that, but it's also twice as expensive. So maybe I'm having a little regret here. I wish I would have just bought something like that. But yeah, gear.
Yeah, I actually just bought a sleeping bag a couple weeks ago from like Dunham Sports. It's like a $40 sleeping bag because I was staying in that Airbnb cabin with very low quality heat. It was all right for what I needed it for, but I don't think it would be a good sleeping bag if I was going out west. So I definitely invest in one like that. So definitely gear for me as well.
What you got, Cameron?
I have here the old Spotlight, and this is something, even for me, I think it's an underutilized tool. I don't use it very often, but when I do use it, I always gain useful information. It's something that we do a lot of whitetail crib strips, right? And we're going around and talking to a lot of people about scouting, and there's been a few really prominent hunters that have brought up the use of shining. I think we call it spotlighting in this part of the country, but this also refers to shining. And like Joe Rentmeester, for example, is someone that uses spotlights a lot to get an idea of like what food source deer are using, especially early season. Wisconsin's season opens September 15th or whatever it is. Those deer are a little bit more patterned. I think spotlights are kind of underutilized tools in deer hunting. I think there's kind of a negative stigma around spotlighting that talk about spooking deer, which obviously is a concern. There's like poaching concerns with spotlighting. Ohio, it is illegal, and that is because of the poaching concerns. You can learn a lot about deer or a certain deer or what a deer is doing. Say you saw a deer last light and you're like, where's that deer going from here? Drive around at night with a spotlight. You'll find out where he's going. Then you can put a little pattern on him. So for me, a spotlight, this was like $30. Also, quick spotlight tip, get one that plugs into your cigarette lighter. These lights are going to be a lot more powerful, and if the battery dies on a lot of the cordless ones, if you charge it, you can't use it while you charge it at the same time. So kind of defeats the purpose. This one's a little bigger, bulkier, but it lives underneath my seat. Never bring out your spotlight while you have a weapon in your vehicle. That is illegal as well, but something that there's kind of a negative stigma towards, and something that's underutilized because you can learn a lot about deer at night because that's when they're most active.
So how many lumens is that?
This is...
Or like, what's the power, I guess? I think it's lumens, right? Or
Yeah,
is it candle watts or something?
This is lumens. This one's high. I think it's 10,000, 15,000. It's bright.
Okay, and like, what does that get you distance-wise? Because I'm like totally foreign to using a using a spotlight?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's a long way. I mean, you could see eyes at a real long way.
Sure.
But 100 yards, you can pretty well see what you're looking at. 200 yards maybe?
Okay.
Pretty far. I mean,
Yeah.
it's bright, and the light on this is more streamlined. It's not like a wide light.
So it's more very narrow and focused.
Yeah, it doesn't cast a wide light. So you put this on a deer at 200 yards away, like you're going to know what it is.
You know, the tactic of scouting under the cover of night, I think, is really freaking valuable. Like you said, you hit all the points on that. However, probably guys obviously going to disagree with me. I don't think a spotlight is the best tool for the job. You know, talking to a lot of guys that shine, there are concerns about those older deer being shined for 3, 4, 5 years, knowing that there's, you know, constant vehicle traffic on a road, and they tend to like to hang back in those areas where they're less visible. You know, those inside corners, things down over a knoll and on a hill or something, where they're a little bit less visible. So I think, again, where you're legal, I mean, use it. But one of the things is a lot of people can't use them because they're not legal. Sure. However, there are tools out there that you can use at night, such as a night vision scope, a thermal unit, an IR unit, a lot of options out there that can be legal. And I think it takes part of that variable about possibly spooking a deer. And every deer is different. We all know that. But taking that variable out of the equation, I think, makes sense. So I would prefer to take that tool over a spotlight.
Yeah, I can't argue that at all. I think that's a way better option if you can afford it. This was $50. Those are $500
or more.
Or more. So the guy that we did the cribs with, Dwayne Carter in Oklahoma, his is recording 1080p video. Like that thing was $4,000. But coolest thing I've ever used in my life. Like,
oh yeah, it was nuts.
It was insane, the detail that you could see and stuff. So yeah, I agree 1,000% that is a better option, but this is a good option for the price point. If spending an extra $1,000 is worth not spooking that deer, to me it is. I mean, if I had it in my budget, like I'd rather not spook the deer. But I guess I would just say nighttime scouting is underutilized, and I think that is the premise of this conversation.
Got it. On that sense, I would agree. I agree 100%.
I agree with Chad as well that it's not the best tool, but growing up in Indiana, they're legal there as long as you don't have a weapon in the car through season and before season. As far as I know, as long as they didn't change anything the past year. But yeah, I used them. I like to use them during season a lot, like during the rut, because you could just drive around, shine fields, and you'll see where it's like, oh, that buck's with the doe. A lot of the properties I hunted were private farms, and they all kind of were all along the same road. So I could hunt a lot of the same properties, and I'd shine fields. Like, oh, that buck's here with the doe. He's probably going to be in the general area for the next, 24, 48 hours. So you utilize it that way. Also, it was just a fun hobby as a kid, just driving around, spotlighting. I used to see 30, 40, 50 deer a night. I mean, you just kind of see where they're going, where they're utilizing food sources, not only to benefit yourself, but just kind of increase your knowledge, not always just to fill a tag. But
even where they are illegal, I mean, how many of us have been driving down a back road, you see a deer in an alfalfa field or a bean field or something, and you back up and cut the wheel and turn your high beams on and get the truck angled over? I mean,
exactly.
Yeah,
I can't help it. I do that all the time. If I see a deer, I'm going to stop and look at it. But
yeah, I think we're all on the same page.